My name is Marina Vale, 30 years old. The heat that Sunday could have cooked an egg on my parents' driveway, and somehow it still wasn't as stifling as their backyard. Paper lanterns wilted over folding tables, music from a Bluetooth speaker fought with the sizzle of burgers, and every half smile I offered felt like a truce I hadn't agreed to. Derek squeezed my hand once, our private signal for breathe, and went to fish sodas from the cooler. I hadn't even cracked mine when Douglas swaggered up, Cheryl glued to his side, both of them flushed with sun or cheap beer or the thrill of an ambush. "Rena," he boomed, using the nickname he saves for moments he wants something. "We gotta talk about the Key West place." Cheryl nodded like a bobblehead. "It's perfect for decompressing. We could, help keep it going." "Help." The word stuck like gristle. "You've stayed there when I've offered," I said, even, careful. "That's enough." Douglas's grin tightened. "You're barely there. It's wasteful. Let me manage it for the family." Across the lawn, my mother's voice sliced the air. "Marina!" She swept over with a dish towel and a disapproving smile. "Don't be difficult. Your brother's trying to be responsible." Responsible. I glanced at Derek, at the grill smoke curling like a bad omen. "The house is for you and Dad to enjoy," I told her. "Not a handoff, not a prize." Before she could fire back, chaos broke at the buffet. Connor, 10 and turbocharged, clipped the table. A comet of barbecue sauce leapt onto the neighbor's white dress. The gasp was chorus level. Harper froze mid-giggle, cheeks going red. I took a step forward to apologize, but Mom beat me there. "Marina, why didn't you stop them?" she scolded. At me, not at the kids whose last names matched hers. Dad crossed his arms like a referee who'd already picked a side. "You need to take responsibility here." A laugh tried to escape and came out as air. "They're not my children," I said low. "Maybe Douglas and Cheryl can keep an eye—" "Don't lecture me," Douglas snapped, sudden steel in his voice. "You act superior with that fancy house." Cheryl's eyes flashed. "You've got everything and you won't share, with family." Around us, heads tilted like sunflowers tracking gossip. Derek drifted back to my side, set a hand at the small of my back, a ballast. I turned to face all three of them. Their want, their audacity, their certainty that family was a key that fits every lock. "No," I said, and the word felt like cool water. "That house stays under my control." End of discussion. The yard's hum died. Even the speaker seemed to understand this wasn't a song anyone wanted to dance to. Mom's smile folded in on itself. "You're blowing this out of proportion." I looked at Dad, searching for some neutral ground, some memory of fairness. He stared past me, toward the grill, as if the stakes needed his moral support. Douglas took a step closer, crowding my space. "You don't need all that. We do. I'll handle the bookings. Make it simple." I blinked. "Bookings?" His jaw worked. "I mean, just handling it, keeping it active." There it was, a slip that tasted like rust. Cheryl's fingers tugged his sleeve, too late. I heard myself laugh, soft and dangerous. "No one's managing anything. You've stayed there because I allowed it. That's over." Mom's eyes hardened into something I recognized from childhood. Comply or be cast as cruel. "Think of your brother's stress. The kids. You have so much, Marina. Be generous." Derek's thumb drew a slow circle against my spine, a question. "Are you okay?" I nodded. I wasn't, but I was done pretending. Across the lawn, the neighbor dabbed at sauce while Aunt Lila whispered into her ear. The wind shifted, bringing the smell of charcoal and a whisper of ocean salt from miles away. For a heartbeat, I saw my parents' faces bathed in a kind of light I used to mistake for love. Then it was just glare. "I'm not handing my work to anyone," I said, "especially not to someone who thinks family means mine is yours and yours is also mine." Douglas's mouth curled. "You'll regret this." Derek tugged my sleeve. "We should go," he murmured. "And the thing about knowing you're right is that staying to win the argument starts to feel like losing." We left with the paper plates still trembling on the table and a silence pressed tight around us. In the car, AC roaring, I watched the rearview mirror until the house disappeared into heat mirage. "You okay?" Derek asked. "I will be," I said, staring straight ahead, "but something's off." "What he said, bookings?" I nodded. The word pulsed. I remembered a water bill that looked high last spring, a spam folder I never check, the way Mom's voice had sounded rehearsed. "If they think I'm just going to roll over—" "They do," Derek said gently. I let my palm flatten against my thigh until it hurt. "Then let's disappoint them." He smiled, quick and fierce. "There she is." That night, my phone buzzed with a family group text. A photo of Mom's lilies, Dad's thumbs up emoji, Douglas's love you fam, Cheryl's heart. Bright and harmless. A stage set after the actors have already lit the fuse. I stared at the screen, at the pretending, and felt the smallest hairline crack run through whatever faith I had left. In the dark reflection, my face looked like a stranger's. Or maybe it finally looked like mine. Outside, the city hummed. Far to the south, the ocean beat its slow fist against the keys. Somewhere between here and there, a lock was about to turn, a camera was about to blink awake, and someone I loved was about to pick the wrong night to test whether I meant no. I put the phone face down and tried to sleep. The ceiling fan carved the air into quiet slices. Beside me, Derek breathed evenly. I counted the turns of the blades and promised myself one thing. The next time someone said I was being dramatic, I'd hand them the evidence. I didn't know yet that the evidence would come with timestamps and sirens, only that the word bookings wouldn't stop echoing. By morning, I had a plan. And for the first time in a long time, the plan didn't include saving anyone but me. By morning, I was a spreadsheet with a pulse. Coffee, laptop, passwords, every tab a little window into the truth I'd let myself ignore. Derek set a second mug by my elbow and kissed my temple without asking questions. He knows the look I get when I'm about to turn a hunch into a paper trail. I started with utilities. Pulled a year, then two. Water usage spiking in months we'd been nowhere near Key West. Electric bills doing a roller coaster when the house should have been asleep. I cross-checked dates against my calendar. Client deadlines in Miami, birthdays, the week we were in Asheville. It didn't add up unless someone else was brushing their teeth under my roof. Derek leaned over my shoulder. Those peaks aren't weekend visits. No, I said. That's showers and laundry and someone falling asleep with the TV on. He nodded at my email. Check the spam purgatory. Remember when your gym kept ending up there? I typed Key West into the search bar and hit return. There it was. A buried thread of confirmations from a rental platform I hadn't used in years. Subject lines bright as sirens. Reservation confirmed. Thanks for hosting. 5-star guest. Different names. Different dates. 2 years worth. For a second, the room went quiet except for the fan and the blood in my ears. Derek's voice came soft. There it is. I clicked into one. The listing title felt like a dare. Sun-drenched coastal gem, Wasatch Garden. Steps to serenity. Photos of my kitchen staged with someone else's charcuterie. My blue throw folded militarily across my own couch. A caption I didn't write. Managed by family for family. Please treat our home with love. My mouth tasted like pennies. Managed by family, I repeated, and the words came out like a laugh sawed in half. I screenshotted everything. Reservations. Payout reports. A host reply that sounded like Douglas trying on good grammar. We pride ourselves on responsive communication. He'd even answered a question about the nearest beach with my exact phrasing from the house guide I'd written. The next call was to Francis, the property manager who once saved me from a burst pipe and never charged me for the extra trip. He answers on the second ring, like he's been waiting. Morning, Ms. Vale. Francis, I said, and tried to keep my voice steady. I need the locks changed. Every door, today. Codes, too. And I want cameras inside facing the entries. Living room, kitchen, hall, nothing invasive. Also exterior, gate, back deck, driveway. Can you sweep the place? I think it's been used. He didn't ask for drama, just said, I'll be there by 11. I'll text you photos. When I hung up, the family group chat chimed cheerfully with a photo of Dad's bacon, captioned, Breakfast of Champions. I dropped the images of the bookings like stones into a pond. Marina, care to explain why my house has been rented for 2 years? Douglas, you're making a big deal out of nothing. It was sitting empty. Cheryl, wow, way to overreact. Dad, he was helping keep it active. Mom, we're family, Marina. Why are you so selfish? I stared, not at the words, but at what they meant. They'd rehearsed this. The script was ready before I pressed send. I typed slowly. The locks are being changed. Access revoked. All of it ends today. Mom called immediately. I let it ring until it stopped. At 1:22 p.m., Francis texted a photo of my living room with a sofa I didn't own. At 1:27, my guest closet with someone's sundress still on a hanger. At 1:40, a key tucked in a fake rock by the hibiscus. At 2:03, a stack of takeout containers in my recycling labeled with a seafood place I'd never tried. Each picture felt like a fingerprint on my sternum. Then, a short video of the gate. "See that bend in the latch?" Francis narrated. "Somebody's taught it a shortcut. I'll replace." He called after the sweep. "We're clear. New deadbolts, new codes, cameras online. I'll send you the live links. Also found a printed check-in sheet in a kitchen drawer with Wi-Fi and alarm info. Looked like a photocopy. I shredded it." "You're a saint," I said, and then swallowed the word because saints don't have to mop up after their own families. When I hung up, Derek pulled me away from the desk and made me drink water. "Now what?" "Now," I said, "we freeze the money." I logged into the rental platform, reported unauthorized use, flagged the listing, initiated an identity audit. Their compliance team asked for proof of ownership and copies of my ID. I uploaded deeds and a photo of me holding the morning paper like a hostage proof of life. A red banner appeared at the top of the listing. Under review. Booking suspended. Cheryl texted me separately, like we were girlfriends sharing lip gloss. "You don't understand what you're doing to Doug." I typed and erased 3 different versions of "he did it to himself" before settling on nothing and letting the dots time out. Mom tried again. I picked up this time. "You're hurting your brother," she said, skipping hello. "He stole from me," I said, "because we needed to start in the same reality." "He was keeping it active," she repeated, like if she said the line enough, it would become true. "You have so much, Marina." "I have what I earned," I said. "I have boundaries, and now I have cameras." A pause. "Cameras?" "Everywhere they should be," I said, "for safety." There was a sound like a swallowed syllable. "You don't trust your family?" The smallest, truest laugh escaped me. "Mom, trust is something you build, not a bill you send me for the privilege of being related." She exhaled into the phone and then softened her tone. The lullaby register. "Sweetheart, you know Douglas is under pressure. Work, the kids. If you would just..." I hung up before the lullaby turned to rage. We'd played this symphony for 30 years. I knew every movement by heart. At dusk, the live camera feeds glowed on my screen like aquarium windows. The gate, the back door, the wide shot of the living room catching the edge of my grandmother's framed map of the Keys. Everything still. Everything mine. Derek set a bowl of pasta near my elbow. "You going to watch those all night?" "No," I lied. "Just for a while." He kissed my head. "You did good today." I wanted to believe him, but under the relief ran something colder, a current I couldn't ignore. People who feel entitled don't accept locked doors as answers. They look for windows. Somewhere out there, I could already feel the wrong kind of resolve taking shape. Around midnight, I clicked the feeds off and set my phone face down, the way you do when you want to pretend you're not bracing. The apartment sank into the kind of dark that holds a breath. If I slept, I don't remember it. I remember the quiet. I remember the certainty. I remember thinking, at least when it happens, the camera will see what I've been told I imagined. The next morning would make me right in a way I didn't want. But the thing about drawing a line is this. Sometimes the person who steps over it is the one who drew it for you your entire life. And sometimes, when the sirens paint your front porch blue, you finally learn the difference between peace and silence. The call came before sunrise. My phone vibrated across the nightstand, slicing through the dark like a warning bell. Derek stirred beside me, muttering, "Ignore it." But I knew that tone in the voicemail preview. Clipped, urgent, businesslike. Francis. I answered on the second ring. "Ms. Vale, you need to get down here. Someone tried to break into the house last night." My stomach dropped. "Who?" He hesitated. "You'll want to see the footage yourself." That hesitation told me everything. Within minutes, my laptop glowed with the Key West feed. The black and white video flickered like a confession under a lie detector. Douglas at the gate, hoodie up, crowbar in hand. He jammed it into the latch, struggling against the new lock until metal screamed against metal. Another shape, smaller, nervous, hovered behind him. Cheryl? No, the posture was wrong. Younger, male. Then came the shriek of the alarm. Douglas froze mid-pry, panic flashing across his face before he bolted for the back door. The second figure vanished into the palms. Moments later, headlights cut across the frame, blue and red. "Police got him," Francis said when I called back, his tone grim. "They found the crowbar and a backpack with gloves, a flashlight, and your spare keys. The ones you said went missing last year." My mouth went dry. He kept them. "He's in custody for trespassing and property damage. Door frames cracked, gates twisted. You'll want to file for charges. I closed my eyes. The image of Douglas on that footage, so familiar, so foreign, burned behind my lids. Do it, I said quietly. Press everything. By noon, the video was all over the family group chat. Mom sent the first text. He didn't mean it. Then, please answer your phone. I didn't. By 3 p.m., the phone rang again. This time I picked up. Marina! Mom's voice trembled with outrage and tears. You have to help Douglas. He's in jail. It was a mistake. He was just trying to get something he left there. With a crowbar? He panicked, she cried. He wouldn't hurt you. He just wanted to talk. Talk? I snapped. By breaking my door? Stop exaggerating. You've always been dramatic about him. The line went quiet, both of us recognizing the word she'd just used. Always. The same word she used when I was 12 and Douglas borrowed my savings jar. The same when he forgot to return my car in college. Every betrayal, every boundary, swept under the rug, labeled family. Mom, I said low, he's not a child anymore. He's a thief. She gasped, like I'd cursed in church. Don't call your brother that. What should I call the person who rents out my house for profit and then breaks into it with a weapon? Silence. Then that soft tone again, the weaponized one. Sweetheart, you don't understand. Douglas lost his job. He's been struggling. You have so much. Why can't you forgive him just this once? Because this once has lasted my entire life. And I hung up. Derek found me staring at the paused footage later that evening. Douglas's face frozen mid-swing, eyes wide with something between anger and fear. You're not second-guessing, are you? He asked, handing me tea. No, I said, just wondering how long he's been planning it. Long enough to believe he'd get away with it. I sighed. Mom says he's struggling. Derek's voice softened. Everyone struggles. Not everyone breaks into someone else's house. Days later, Francis sent the police report. The officer's summary was short, detached, devastatingly clear. Subject attempted forced entry with metal tool. Security alarm activated. Officers arrived within 5 minutes. Subject apprehended on premises. Admitted intent to retrieve personal belongings. Evidence: crowbar, keys, backpack. Damage estimate, $1,075. He told them he was just checking on things. I forwarded the report to my lawyer and printed a copy for myself. The act felt ceremonial, like signing a peace treaty that required acknowledging the war was real. Mom didn't stop. She showed up 2 days later, unannounced. Her knock was soft, like she thought guilt could be polite. When I opened the door, she was already crying. You're tearing this family apart, she said. I stepped aside. Come in. She perched on the edge of my couch, the same way she used to sit when I'd done something that disappointed her. Your father's sick over this, she said. Douglas is your brother. He needs support, not punishment. I stood across from her, arms folded. He rented out my house behind my back, pocketed the money, and when I found out, he broke in. If that's not punishment worthy, what is? Her voice wavered. He made mistakes. No, I cut in. He made choices, and you helped him make them. She blinked. What? I crossed to the kitchen counter and set down the printouts, the rental confirmations, the bills, the photos. These didn't start 2 months ago. They go back 2 years. You knew. Her lips parted, trembling. Douglas said it was harmless, that you'd never notice. So you did know. She started crying harder. We just thought it was helping everyone. I sank into the chair opposite her, my voice steadier than I felt. You thought stealing from me was helping? Don't say that. Then what should I call it? She had no answer, just the sound of her breathing too fast. Derek appeared in his doorway, towel in hand. Do you want me to stay? I shook my head. I've got this. When I turned back, Mom's hands were clasped in her lap, shaking. You're really pressing charges? Yes. She looked up, eyes pleading. That's your brother. And I'm your daughter, I said quietly. But you never seem to remember that part. She flinched. I walked her to the door, the air between us so thick with old love it felt like dust. Tell Dad I said hello, I murmured. Marina, please. Goodbye, Mom. The door clicked shut. For a long time, I just stood there. Derek came over, wrapped his arms around me, and whispered, You did the right thing. Then why does it feel like I just set fire to my childhood? Because sometimes you have to burn the bridge that keeps dragging you back. That night, I opened the family group chat. The last messages were days old, Mom's prayers, Dad's silence, Douglas's single word, traitor. I deleted the thread. For the first time in years, my phone was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like freedom and grief at once. I went to bed that night thinking I'd lost everything. I didn't realize yet. I'd just started taking it back. The doorbell rang just as the rain started, a gray, slanting drizzle that blurred the Miami skyline into watercolor. Derek looked up from the kitchen counter. "Don't," he said softly, but I was already moving. Through the peephole, Mom's umbrella, Dad's posture, that stiff, immovable line he gets when he's already decided how the conversation will go. I opened the door halfway. "Can we come in?" Mom's voice trembled with rehearsed humility. "5 minutes," I said. They entered like diplomats at a peace talk, shaking off water, taking the same seats on the couch they'd claimed for every argument we'd ever had. Mom started first, the same way she always did. "We just want to talk about Douglas." Of course they did. "He's miserable," she said. "He's lost his job, Marina. You could fix this. Just tell the court you misunderstood." "Misunderstood?" I interrupted. "He broke in with a crowbar, Mom. There's footage." Dad cleared his throat. "You're making this bigger than it needs to be. The family's name—" "Stop," I said. "The only person who's made this big is Douglas, and you, for defending him." For a moment, no one spoke. Rain hit the windows like soft applause. Derek leaned against the kitchen doorway, watching in silence, his presence steady as a warning. Mom's eyes shimmered. "He's your brother. Family forgives." I nodded slowly. "Then let's talk about forgiveness. You knew he was renting out my house, didn't you?" Her breath caught. "What?" "Don't lie," I said. "I've got bills, emails, proof of payouts. You got a cut, didn't you?" Dad's jaw flexed. "We didn't take anything," he snapped. "He gave us a little to help with bills. He said you wouldn't mind." I laughed, not cruelly, just tired. "You knew he was stealing and said nothing. You benefited. That's not family. That's collusion." "Watch your tone," Dad barked. Derek's voice came low but firm. "No, I think she's finally using the right one." Mom's lip quivered. "We didn't mean for it to go this far." "You meant to protect him," I said, "even if it cost me." They didn't argue. They didn't have to. The truth sat between us like a fourth person. I took a deep breath, the kind that tastes like the edge of a cliff. "I'm selling the house." Mom blinked. "What?" "I'm done. The Key West house, the guilt, the manipulation, all of it. I'm selling it. And I'm donating 1/3 of the proceeds to a charity in Florida that helps kids who actually deserve a break." Dad stood abruptly, rainwater still dripping from his sleeves. "You're throwing away family over a house?" "No," I said, rising to meet him. "I'm throwing away a leash." His voice rose. "You think this makes you noble? Selling out your own blood?" "I think it makes me free." He glared at me for a long second, face red, before storming out, slamming the door so hard the windows shuddered. Mom stayed. She looked smaller somehow, fragile under the weight of choices she'd stopped owning years ago. "Please," she whispered, tears streaking her face. "Don't do this. We can fix it." I shook my head. "You had years to fix it. You chose silence." She covered her face, sobbing quietly. "We only wanted to help him. And you broke me instead." She stood shakily, clutching her purse like armor. "I don't recognize you anymore." "That's because you only ever saw me as useful," I said softly. "Not whole." For a long time, she just stood there. Then, without another word, she turned and left. The click of the door sounded final, like the last nail in a coffin that had been waiting for decades. Derek came over and wrapped his arms around me. "You okay?" "No," I said, tears finally spilling, "but I'm done being their savior." 2 days later, Joyce came over. She dropped her purse on the counter and scanned the chaos. Papers, contracts, real estate listings, coffee rings on every surface. "You're actually doing it," she said. "I'm selling it. Francis has the listing photos already." "Good. That house stopped being a home the day they used it against you." We spent the afternoon sorting the sale paperwork. When it was done, Joyce leaned back in her chair, exhaling. "You know, this isn't just closure, it's an upgrade." I smiled faintly. "You mean therapy that pays for itself?" "Exactly." She laughed, but there was pride in her eyes. That night I wrote the letter, the one that would make everything official. "Dear Mom, Dad, and Douglas, by the time you read this, the Key West house will be under contract. None of you will receive any proceeds. 1/3 of the sale will go to a children's charity providing education and mentorship. The rest will go toward building my future. Douglas, you turned generosity into profit and broke into my home. Mom, Dad, you defended him. You taught me that love meant obedience. I finally learned it doesn't. This isn't revenge, it's release. Marina." I read it aloud to Joyce before sealing it. She nodded slowly. That's not a goodbye. That's a graduation. The sale moved quickly. Within a week, an investor offered above asking. Francis handled the inspection, sent updates with timestamps and clean photos. The closing date set for 30 days. Elena Torres, the charity director, met me for coffee downtown to finalize the donation. "You're sure?" she asked, eyes wide as I handed over the documents. "Absolutely," I said. "That house caused enough harm. It should do something good now." Her hand closed around mine, warm and steady. "You have no idea how many lives this will change." For the first time in months, I smiled and meant it. When the closing day came, Derek and I signed the last papers in silence. Outside, the Miami sky stretched cloudless, a rare gift of blue. "Feels weird," he said. "Feels clean," I answered. As we left the notary's office, I didn't look back. Some doors don't deserve to stay open. 6 months later, the silence in our apartment didn't feel empty anymore. It felt earned. Morning light slanted across the white walls, glinting off the rim of Derek's coffee mug. The ocean beyond the balcony murmured, like it knew the whole story and was keeping it safe. For the first time in years, there were no missed calls from Mom, no frantic texts about Douglas, no guilt sitting in my inbox disguised as love. Freedom, it turned out, sounded like nothing. Derek flipped through the newspaper. "You've been quiet," he said. "I'm realizing it's been half a year since I last heard from them." He looked up. "And?" I smiled faintly. "And that might be the healthiest thing that's ever happened to me." He grinned, leaned back, and let out a content sigh. "Took them 30 years to raise you into someone who could finally leave." That afternoon, an envelope slid under the door. No postage, no handwriting I recognized, just my name, Marina, in black ink that bled slightly from the humidity. I hesitated before opening it. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Marina, your father's health isn't good. He won't say it, but he misses you. I do too. We're not asking for money or forgiveness. Just time. Maybe we can talk. I hope you're happy. Love, Mom." I read it twice. No manipulation, no deflection. Just a mother who finally realized she'd lost something more valuable than control. For the first time, the ache that followed wasn't anger. It was grief for what we could have been. Still, I didn't call. Some wounds need to scar before you can touch them. I folded the letter neatly and placed it in my desk drawer beside the closing documents from the Key West sale. The before and after of my liberation. A week later, Joyce dragged me to the Bright Horizons Gala, the same children's charity I'd donated to. The ballroom shimmered with soft gold light and cautious optimism. People mingled, laughed, clinked glasses. I hovered near the back, feeling like a ghost who'd stumbled into someone else's story. Elena Torres, the director, spotted me instantly. "Marina, I'm so glad you came." She hugged me, genuine and warm. "We wanted you to see this." On stage, a slideshow flickered to life. Photos of smiling kids flashed across the screen. Classrooms, books, backpacks, little victories. Then one image held, a small girl holding a bright blue notebook, beaming. Beneath it, the caption read, "Funded by the Vail Scholarship Program." My breath caught. "You named it after me?" Elena nodded. "Your donation inspired 3 others. We've helped 72 students this year. You turned pain into opportunity. That's worth remembering." I felt the tears before I even realized they were coming. For so long, that house had been a monument to betrayal. Now somehow, it had become a foundation for someone else's beginning. Joyce squeezed my arm, whispering, "See? You didn't lose anything. You just changed what it meant." Later that night, back home, I stood on the balcony with a glass of wine, watching the city lights blink against the horizon. Derek joined me, slipping his arm around my shoulders. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded slowly, for the first time in a long time. He kissed my hair. "You ever think about going back? Seeing them?" I let out a long breath. "Sometimes, but not yet. Maybe when the anger's a memory instead of a reflex." He smiled. "You'll know when it's time." The next morning, I sat at my desk and opened a new page in my journal. I wrote a letter, not to them, but to myself. "Dear Marina, you did it. You stopped bleeding yourself dry to keep others comfortable. You stopped mistaking guilt for love. You built peace from the rubble of their expectations. You lost a house, a family, and the illusion that you had to earn their approval. And somehow, you came out whole. If you ever forget who you are, look at the ocean. It doesn't apologize for its tides, it just moves." And I tore the page out and pinned it above my desk. A reminder that survival isn't spite, it's grace with a backbone. 2 months later, the phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Then I picked up. Marina? Mom's voice was soft, smaller than I remembered. Your father's better. We're living quietly now. No more houses, no more arguments. If you ever want to visit, the door's open. I closed my eyes. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I'm glad he's okay, I said finally. She exhaled, a fragile sound. You sound happy. I am, I said. And it was true. We didn't make promises. We didn't reopen old wounds. We just stopped pretending. Sometimes that's the best kind of healing. When the call ended, I looked out toward the horizon. The ocean shimmered silver in the late light. Endless. Unapologetic. That night, I posted one last message on my page, not for sympathy, but for connection. I used to think family was something you were born into. Now I know it's something you choose. With honesty, with boundaries, with love that doesn't demand silence. If you've ever had to protect your peace, don't feel guilty. Feel proud. Because sometimes, survival looks a lot like starting over. The comments poured in, strangers sharing stories of their own broken homes and quiet rebuilds. For the first time, I realized my story wasn't a cautionary tale, it was a blueprint. Derek joined me on the couch, pulling a blanket over both of us. What are you thinking about? He asked. How endings don't always mean loss, I said. Sometimes they're just beginnings written in disguise. He smiled. So what now? I looked toward the sea, where the moon carved a path of light across the water. Now? I whispered. I build something that's mine, and I let the rest drift. The tide rolled in, steady and forgiving. For once, I didn't look back.